everyone, Miss S here. Today we're going to be using stock photos to break down the human form and use them to draw humans a lot easier. We'll be going over a little bit of anatomy, but not as in-depth as a future video that I will be posting. We'll talk a little bit about proportions, measurements, but the biggest thing is that we're going to be identifying shapes. And shapes are nice and simple, so this will be nice and simple, okay? But the biggest thing is to teach you how to utilize stock reference photos. So as you can see here, I am using stock photos by the amazing SenshiStock over on DeviantArt. Her username and everything is right here in the corner, but I will also be putting the link to her profile in the description. Okay, she posts all different sorts of stock images, female, male, couples, weapons, magical girls, all different body types, action poses. It's really cool. They use props. There's some that's underwater. They're all just really a great resource for drawing humans or learning how to draw humans. I use them a lot, or at least I used to. Nowadays I'm using a different program that I will introduce to you later on. But they're still really great and helpful stock reference. So, what we're going to be doing is identifying the different shapes that we can be using, how they interact with each other, and making sure that our lengths of everything are the same. Okay, this is step one of multiple steps. So by the end of these next 3 weeks of these assignments, you will have a full rendered human drawing. Okay, so first thing that we're going to look at is the head. Okay, I'm going to be working with a red pen. Okay, so make sure that you are doing the same. That way you can really tell the difference, especially if you're using like a black and white photo, or just drawing with your finger on your phone or something like that. You want to be able to really have this stand out. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to utilize. So I'm going to go over here, and looking at her head, I'm just going to outline the entire outside of it. Okay, so if I outline everything, ignoring some of the features, just focusing kind of on the skull and everything, I'm left with like an oval shape. Okay? The next shape that I'm going to include is a cylinder. Okay? This cylinder is going to be for the neck. So I can identify it right there. Okay? It's a little wobbly, kind of goes in, but for the purpose of what we're doing, that is good enough. The next things I'm going to identify are the circle for the shoulders, and then the kind of oval shape that connects them. Okay? Now from the shoulders, I'm not going to draw the next shape, this part of the arm, like that, because that's not how arms connect. Okay? The way arms connect is this is where you have your different joints. So our shoulders are the ball joint. That's why you can rotate your arm around and things like that. And then further down here, that's just kind of like a hinge joint. That's why you can go up and down and, kind of move it around and stuff like that. So we're actually going to start in this circle for the shoulder, okay, because they are connected. So I'm going to come down, go down to the elbow, and there we go. And then another oval. You'll notice that the human body, when you break it down this simplistic, it's a lot of ovals. Okay, so for the next one, I'm going to do another oval, and they're going to overlap like that. Okay, that way I can see that that's where the joint is. And then I'm just going to draw kind of flattened, I guess you could still call that an oval a little bit for the hand. I'm going to come over here, and you'll see that this arm is blocked a little bit by the rest of her body, her torso, but I am still going to do my best to draw the whole thing. Okay? What's very helpful is that how wide this arm is exactly how wide this arm is. So I don't have to guess oh, how far does it go? It'll be the same thing for this particular pose. You're not dealing with too much perspective and things like that. And then again, going around, and one more for the hand. And again, the wrist is another joint, so you want to make sure that you are overlapping the forearm with the hand. Onto her body, her torso. The torso is also going to be, just for simplicity purposes, is going to be another oval, okay? Now we already have this bone right here, okay, like with the clavicle and things like that. So this one, I'm going to come up, and what's nice is her leotard kind of does it all for me. Come down and back up. So you're kind of working again with a cylinder, but it kind of goes around like that, okay? Now what's nice is you can see it here in her leotard again. We're going to create a shape that goes like that. That way we can really see like where the hips go, how far the waist goes out, things like that. And don't worry, this part I'm just kind of going through because the next step is how to use this, okay? So this part is just like, okay, well, I can see these shapes, blah, 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 blah. So that way you have, you know, a shape of a person rather than all the other complicated details you can see. The legs are just like the arms. Make it go in a little bit. Come down. What's nice about the knee is it pretty much lets you know exactly where they need to overlap. This leg is the same thing, and I know it goes behind it, so I'm just going to do a thin red line because that leg goes back in here. Same thing with the other back part of this leg. Goes down. And then, last but not least, the feet. So I've broken this photo down into all these funky shapes. So what can I do with this? Well, this will make it a lot easier to draw the person now. Okay, so not even using the photo. I'm now going to go in with a black pen, and to the best of my ability, I'm going to try and recreate the shapes that I've done. Okay, so I'm going to use these ones to measure out like, oh, okay, so I know that I did like this and this for the arm, but I can't just nonchalantly draw those like that, okay? Now that I've broken this down into shapes, now I can really look at it and go, oh, okay, now it's a lot easier. You can even just take like your fingers and like measure, okay, so like from here to here, the forearm's a little bit shorter, so I gotta make sure the oval's a little bit, you know, shorter on the bottom than it is on the top. And oh, look at that, I noticed that the head is exactly how long the top of the arm and the bottom of the arm are, okay? This is just makes it a lot easier for you to find different measurements on your own, okay? In another video, I will of course give you those measurements. We'll add a lot more math into our art and drawing human figures. But if you're not too keen on numbers and you would much rather just kind of eyeball things or just, once again, use your fingers to kind of draw them out, this is what's really good, okay? So to the best of my ability, I've got the head, and I've noticed that the neck kind of comes in a little bit, but it's a little bit like curl, like kind of cut off on the edge there, and it goes just a little bit down. So I'm going to make sure that mine does the same thing, okay? I can then see that shoulders are 2.5 heads, I believe. Yeah, 2.5 heads across. So I have one head. If I put like 1.5, 2, then I know that it kind of goes up here, goes a little bit out past, around, out like that, okay? Now this one's not going to be as perfect because you are freehanding it, okay? You're not tracing it. The whole point is to try and get these down on your own, okay? I then have the first shoulder, and the second shoulder. Her head, I made her head a little bit lopsided. There we go. The next one, once again, I found out that this is the same length as the head. So, 1, 2, 3. Same length as the head, and it goes around like that. It's okay to be as sketchy as I'm going. Again, this is like if you were drawing it on paper. This one's actually, since it's kind of coming towards us, it's not as tall as the head. So it is a little bit shorter, and just measuring with my fingers, I can see that it's almost about the difference from here to here. So right underneath that circle for the shoulder. So I'm going to make it come around. And then the hand. This other one, same length as the first one. And then that's also the same length. And I notice that it gets smaller as it goes down. And the hand. We then have the torso. Now the torso doesn't touch right here, so I notice it kind of comes down, and then it goes up. It goes into this other arm. Basically what we're practicing right now is our observational abilities. Our ability to be like, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't quite look right. Or, oh, I never noticed that it did this. Come around down for the hips. Kind of comes around the outside a little bit. It actually touches the bottom there. Comes down. Goes into this a little bit more. Around and up. One of the biggest things about art is, yeah, you can practice all of these things, but if you don't understand why you're doing things, then you're not really like entirely learning from it. So I'm all for heavily referencing like images. Like if you directly copy an image, I think that's okay as long as you cite your sources, put that you reference something, you're not claiming it as your own. But the biggest thing is that you're not just mindlessly copying it. Okay? You want to make sure that as you're doing it that you're like, "Oh, okay. I see that when I'm drawing this, it goes like that. Okay, so I now learned this, and now I can attempt to do it on my own." Okay? You don't want to just continually just keep copying things or heavily referencing things, and you want to start having your own ideas. And this is a good way to start. Because this will also help you figure out, oh, okay, I remember when I did that pose, it kind of went like this. So if I'm doing this pose, then it'll kind of go like that. This goes right here. And the last foot. So you can see I did a pretty close job. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. Okay? So, now that we have all of this, oopsies, there we go. Perfect. So now we have this, what can I do with it? Okay? When you go to do this, make sure that you're doing it nice and lightly with your pencil, so that way it's kind of more of a guideline of what you're going to be doing, rather than like, this is my final drawing, okay? So, now that we are done with sketching out that figure that we were able to identify, now we're going to actually turn it into a person. And after this is actually where this video is going to stop. We're going to continue transforming them into like a character later on in different videos, okay? So the easiest way to use this is basically just to outline it, okay? We'll be going over faces later, so for right now, I'm still just going to keep it nice and simple. I might put reference lines for the eyes and nose and mouth and things like that, but I don't want to add really anything just yet. Okay, same kind of goes for the hair. I'll draw the outline, but I'm not going to put any details just yet. Okay, the next thing is I know that, we can't put the ear though. Whoop, there's the ear. The next thing is the neck goes down. Now I can't actually see like a line at the base of the neck, so I'm not going to include that. Referencing that photo again, I can kind of see that it goes down like that. And then, let me move this. I can see that her arm right here kind of goes in a little bit because it's folding in on itself. So that way I know to use those lines to kind of go in. I can go up and do my best to kind of recreate that hand. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Goes down. And then just again, follow my lines right around. Right here, where these like different parts of these lines intersect with each other, I see that there's a little bit of a crease right there into our armpit. So I'm going to include a little bit right there. Before we move on to the rest of the torso, I'm coming around here, tracing it. I don't really see any lines here because it's not creased, so I'm just going to continue. Do that hand. Running out of space a little bit, but that's okay. Now, we have overlap, okay? So here we really have to pay attention. We do have the side of the chest, but then there's also like a little crease just right there, similar to the one that I already identified on the other side. So I'm just going to include a little bit of a crease, a little bit of a crease, and now I just again follow alongside, go around the hips, go around the legs, and now on to the feet. I'm going to put her in shoes later, so I'm just going to keep it closed-toed like it is. And then, just to put something on her, I'm just going to include the same exact leotard that is on the model until I come back the next week and add clothes. So by breaking it down into shapes and just kind of copying them and then outlining them, very, very simple steps, by just doing this, I now have the outline of my human shape. And that's it. That's just where we're going to be stopping for today. But hopefully that kind of breaks it down nice and easy. Doesn't offer too many numbers, too much math. There are, of course, a ton of different things to go over when it comes to human proportions and measurements and things like that, especially like body types. Like you'll notice that my model came out a little bit, wider. I accidentally gave her pretty short legs, but that's okay. But that's, kind of the point of it, is it's utilizing the stock photos to then draw what you want to draw. Okay? Again, it's okay to copy things, but make sure that you're learning from them as you do that. Okay? So this is the female. I'm going to go ahead and do the male as well. I might not have as much commentary with it, but I will talk about how some of the anatomy is a little bit different. Like you'll notice that there is no more like waist going in, things like that. The male has a little bit more muscles. But as far as the technique goes, it's going to be the same exact thing. Okay, I'm going to outline first. I'll be doing this one faster. This one does have perspective. So the arm, since it's coming towards us, it's not going to be like a full oval like that. If I trace around it, I'll actually see it's an oval that gets a little bit smaller in the front here. And then this one's really weird shape. It goes whoop, like that, and I can't see the hands, okay? So again, don't try to fit a shape where you don't see it, okay? If it looks weird, it looks weird. That's just how it is. You never draw something that you can't see, okay? The chest comes up and actually goes all the way over here and around. Use these guidelines for the waist, leg, and the feet. There we go. Utilizing those shapes, I I can then copy them over. Oops, I didn't make the neck go all the way where it should. My bad. So the neck comes around. Now the reason we have like that part of the neck that goes in is, you know, the neck is the entire base of the head. It's not just this tiny little, you know, one vertebrae that kind of goes into it and then just disappears. So you want to try your best to include it going into your figure. So the neck came around. Like that. One half. Right around here. And right around here. Connect those. Now these are the weird shapes. So I know it's coming towards us. So it gets a little like that. And then the rest of the arm goes whoop because he has his arms crossed. So it kind of makes like an infinity sign. The chest. Oopsies. That should go actually through there. The waist. And last but not least, leg, leg. Now another thing to keep in mind is it is totally possible to just keep breaking things down into more and more shapes. Like you can just keep going and going and going with this. It doesn't just have to be like these basic parts of the body, like the hand, every single part of the hand broken down into a different shape. The face, every single part is a shape. You could even start identifying, if you want to go really far, you can identify the different muscle structures, okay? So instead of just doing like an oval for the leg, you could totally identify like, you know, the front part of the leg, the back part of the leg. There's a lot of different things you can do. But again, this is just this is just one of many ways to do it. And just like the female figure, we're gonna go around. He looks weird without any hair or anything. I'll add that, and again I'll include the ear. Oops. Here we go. Goes around. There's a little bit more definition around like the muscles and the elbow. So I'm going to include some of that. I can see where this line is. I can see his arm. Follow that line. That line goes up. I can see side of his chest. If I just outline this, goes in to the leg. Ah, there it is. And we'll include the shorts for now. there we go. So that's just what we're focusing on for this time, okay? And that's gonna do it. So thanks very much for stopping by for another video. Hopefully this was a good step-by-step so you can complete all your work, or if you're not one of my students, you can use this to maybe help you with using other different stock photos. Again, these were provided by SenshiStock on DeviantArt. Again, link will be in the description because she is an amazing resource for all of these things. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you in the next video.